Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamini Namine Namaste Sarasvati Deve Gauravani Pracharyane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Vayantuna Vitripyama Uttama Shloka Vikrame Yachrim Vatam Rasagyanam Svadu Svadu Pade Pade. So today we have a number of questions that you have sent me. So I'm going to give the priority to the oldest ones. There are a few questions that I am waiting to receive. I have 3 questions from Bhakta Fabienne, which are going to be the first ones. And then 2 weeks ago, we didn't answer a question by Govinda. Then I have a question by Yamuna. And then to finish, if we have time, there is a question about the cobbler, Narada Muni and the cobbler. We spoke about this pastime. And so today, if we have time, I'm going to answer in complete way to tell the whole story. Okay? So Bhakta Fabienne, first question is that I'm going to just read what he sent me. He sent me the question in Italian. I have translated in English. That the material world is usually seen as full of joys and sorrows. However, I had an intuition, since matter itself is neither beautiful nor ugly, good or bad, it appears so because the imagination desires of those who perceive it. What kind of existence does a jiva who is free from that kind of fantasy perceive and have? How can one achieve such a vision? And what spiritual degree has one reached? What is in the next? This is not one question. This is more than one question. So, first of all, it's there are certain topics that it's difficult to answer quickly because, for instance, here it is said that the material world is not good nor bad. What does it mean? You know, the material world is good and bad at the same time. It depends. It depends from the perspective. For instance, if we think to be this material body and something good happens, we become rich, we are born in a good family, a rich family, we are beautiful, we are healthy, etc., then it seems like the material world is not so bad, because everything is going overall okay. So from this perspective, I can say, well, this material world is not so bad. Actually, it's good. But then time passes, or maybe the good karma of you goes away, and then everything goes south, and you become old, you lose the money, you lose your health. So then the material world becomes bad. So the material world can be called good or bad, depending from the situation that you are. So what is the problem with this? The problem is that we are not part of this world, so we cannot be happy with the mechanism of this world. If it is true that we are part of the spiritual world, and the spiritual world is eternal, we can never, ever be happy with anything different from eternity, because we are eternal. So this is the problem of the material world, that we can never be happy because we are strangers. We are strangers in a strange land. We can never be happy because we are not part of this world. Whether we have a good life or a bad life, if one is intelligent, then can recognize that something is going wrong, that something is not right. Because, you know, because we are not satisfied. There are two problems with satisfaction. The first one is the quantity of pleasure. It's not much. One has to be real foolish to be happy with anything that he gets, even if he's very rich. Uh, One has to be unintelligent, not recognized that it's not enough. You want more. So someone can say, why should I want more? I should be content with anything I get. Well, this is for foolishness number two, because it is right, because this sense of dissatisfaction comes from the soul, and the soul, it's wants more. It's like Srila Prabhupada will make it an example of someone who is in a desert, so he's very thirsty. You go to him, you give him a drop of water. You know, someone can say, well, a drop of water better than nothing, but it's not enough. He wants more. He wants more because he's thirsty. We want more because we are spirit soul. This is the So from the spiritual point of view, the material world is always bad because it's not enough and because everything is temporary. Now, most of us, not all of us, are young. Most of us are healthy. None of us is poor or anything bad. But realistically, this is not going to last. So it is right to live with this Damocles sword over the head, or is this kind of psychological disease? Oh, I live. Oh, everything is going to finish. No, we should not. We should not be pathological on philosophy, but at the same time, we have to be realistic. Don't found your life on something that is going to finish. Better to dedicate our life to spiritual life, because that is the eternity. So it's not our imagination, it is reality. You don't imagine to be dissatisfied because it is not enough. It is a reality. And those who perceive it are intelligent. Those who not perceive it are not intelligent. So, second question, what kind of existence does a jiva who is free from the kind of fantasy perceive and have? Well, it's that is difficult to describe, because you had to push your intelligence to understand what it means, living in a world where everything is eternal, where everything is complete, where there are so many pastimes. There is a Radha and Krishna, Vrindavan, everything is beautiful. You have to read the books. There are books and books and books how you say, of description of what the spiritual world is. You should read our books so you know what type of life all of us can do if we become pure devotees. How one can achieve such a vision? Well, this is what we have been preaching. That's the, just like if you ask somebody, how can I become stronger? And he tells you how to become stronger, but then description is not enough. You have to do it. You have to go to the gym. You have to eat better. You have to walk more. And then you become healthy. So we teach the people of how to live a life in Krishna consciousness, and then you have to do it. You have to practice. Only with practice. And the first practice is a chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, number one, and then chanting so many other songs and mantras, but the chanting is number one. So then, what is the next? It's never going to be finished because spiritual world is dynamic. Dynamic means you do something in the spiritual world and then there is something new to come in the spiritual world. In the material world, you become rich, and then what? What you are going to do with the money? You're going to eat? Well, you already eat. You don't need so much money to eat. You're all of you, nobody is dying of hunger, or so you sleep in a better place, but you always sleep. How many things you can do with money in this world, in this life? So much limitations. So this is the first question. The second question is, if I know your spiritual identity, for instance, of my disciple, since he's one of my prospective disciples, Vata Fabien, if I know his spiritual identity, if I knew it, I won't tell you. So I will not tell you if I know your spiritual identity, because if I tell you yes, then I should tell you, and I cannot tell you. And second, it is definitely not in our culture to declare that I am such a pure devotee, that I am advanced, that I have spiritual visions. Nobody tells you. If someone tells you, oh, I am a liberated soul, I see Krishna, is a liar, is a cheater. Trinada pisuni chana tarora pisa ishnuna amanina manadena kirtaniya sadahari. Who knows this verse? I think everybody knows this. It's very famous. Where Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says the one should be humble. So if I am supposed to be humble, otherwise I cannot chant Hare Krishna properly, how can I declare to the world that I have spiritual realization up to the point of knowing your spiritual identity? Only liberated souls who come here with special missions can do that and should say to the world that this is his level. So if I knew your spiritual identity, I would never tell you, because you do nothing with that. What you're going to do with this information? Knowing who you are in the spiritual world is useful if you can act. If for example, you are a gopi, a gopa, okay, you know I am a gop, and then what are you going to do with that information? Because you are not a gopa, so you don't need to know that you are a gopa. It will be useful when you actually are a gopa. You become liberated. You have developed your spiritual body. So then the third question is, how is Vrindavan? Vrindavan is the city of devotees. Everybody is a devotee. Srila Prabhupada said, where Krishna consciousness is prevalent. He didn't say everybody. He said prevalent. I always like this word, prevalent. It means so you go around, then you see a lot of people telling you Radhe Radhe like this, Radhe Sham like this. And then you see people that apparently they're all interested to money and they try to get more money possible from you, all these things. So it doesn't look very spiritual, not at all, Then it's prevalent from our point of view. But from the philosophical point of view, if someone is in Vrindavan, is a liberated soul. And we should be very careful not to. Then if someone comes to Vrindavan, he must know that there is only Krishna, there is nothing. There are no malls, there are no cinemas, there is nothing here. Or you like Krishna, or better you stay in your city. So Vrindavan is the land of Krishna, land of the devotees, everybody chants and everybody is a wonderful personality. So then we go to the other question that I think Govinda should read it, since he is the author of this question. Can you?
Hare Krishna, Srila Guru Maharaj, and devotees who accept my respectful obeisances. I'll voice to Srila Prabhupada. Yes, let me see if I can find it. Okay. In Chaitanya Charitamrita, Mahaprabhu explains the 9 stages of bhakti, Shraddha, Sadhusanga, etc. Are there any stages the devotee undergoes in his relationship with the spiritual master? Is there anything like the initial stage, intermediate stage, mature stage?
Once one advances in spiritual life, automatically he improves his understanding of your relationship with the spiritual master. Who is a spiritual master? I'm writing a book on the Guru. It is called Guru Tattva Deepika, but it will take some time, to come out. So the spiritual master represents Krishna. Is a representation of Krishna. It's not Krishna. Well, sometimes Krishna took the form of the spiritual master, but normally the guru is a man who is advanced, very much advanced in spiritual life, and he acts as the representative of Krishna. So what is the representative of Krishna? Representative means he is not Krishna. He is the one who presents you, introduce you to Krishna. If you go back in the spiritual world, just maybe a kind of a joke. It's not really like the Krishna will tell you who is your spiritual master, because everybody is supposed to have a spiritual master. Even Krishna had a spiritual master. Who knows what is the name of Krishna's spiritual master?
Sandipani Muni.
Sandipani Muni. He was a spiritual master. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who knows the name of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's spiritual masters?
Ishwara Puri.
Ishwara Puri. Yes. Very good. So does Krishna need a spiritual master? Is the Supreme Personality of God, is a source of all knowledge. Why does he need a spiritual master? And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna also. So why does he need a spiritual master? For several reasons. First of all, it's a good example. You cannot be a preacher if you give a bad example, first of all. And second, is because it's part of of rasa. Rasa means how is the spiritual world? The spiritual world is not a place where everybody says, who cares? I know everything. This is not how it works in the spiritual world. Everybody is full of love for everybody. And the guru or the spiritual master is the recipient of this love. So you need somebody to love. Even now that we are devotees in this world, and we hope soon to become pure devotees and go back to Krishna, we need somebody to love. We need somebody to serve. Without the guru, who are you going to serve? Of course, we have so many devotees, and wonderful devotees. And there are so much service, etc. But it's not the same thing. It's not the same thing. It's like when you serve your spiritual master, when you talk to the spiritual master, this is another degree. It's a higher level. So you must have a spiritual master so that you can love him spiritually. And so you can, when the spiritual master talks, you can be sure that this is the truth. You can talk to so many wonderful devotees we have in our movement, and they will give you very good answers, maybe even non-different from anything the spiritual master will tell you, but it's not the same thing. The level of your faith, of your acceptance, is much lower, and this is how it should be. It's like me with Srila Prabhupada, If Srila Prabhupada, I read books of so many very exalted devotees, his god brothers, and so many, and I like those books. I really like those books, but it's never the same thing. When I read Srila Prabhupada books, that's where I say psychologically yes. While others say, yes, but, let me think it a little bit. This is how it works. So everybody should have a guru, and everybody should learn from the guru, and everybody should serve the guru. So we have these 9 stages of bhakti. We are going to briefly talk about this, very briefly, because this is Adoshraddha Tata Sadhusanga Ta Bhajana Kriya. Tato narta niritti syat, tato nishta ruchistataha. Atashakti stato bhavas tata prema byudanchati. Sadakanam ayam premna padurbhave bhave kramaha. So in the beginning there must be faith. What does faith means? Faith means you believe. Why you should believe? If you don't know why you should believe in something. This word Shraddha has not the same meaning than the Christian faith. Christians say you should believe in God. It doesn't matter if you know him, if you understand him, just have faith. But I don't have faith, then you go to hell. This is the Christian understanding of faith. We don't say that. Shraddha does not mean to have blind faith. How can you believe in Krishna if you don't know Krishna? First, you know Krishna a little bit, just enough, and then you believe, and then you accept him. So faith has a different meaning. Some other time we can go deeper in the study of what Shraddha means. So then, when you have understood Krishna and you are interested in Krishna, then you go looking for devotees. This is called sadhusanga. We go to a temple, we go to a class, we go to a video conference. Why? Because you read, you have thought, you have understood, and then some attraction to Krishna in spiritual life develops in your heart. And obviously, if you like something, you had to go talk to the people who has the same interest. Why you are not now talking with somebody who is interested in sports or cars? I don't know. Why? Because you are not interested. Yeah, you are interested in Krishna consciousness, that's why you are here. And we are going to give a couple of hours, 1 hour and a half, to Krishna consciousness and to hear talking about Krishna. Why? Why? Because you have understood a little, or maybe more, or maybe a lot, But faith or Shraddha, from Shraddha you go to the devotees. It is called Sadhusanga. And then Anartha Nivritti. What it means, Anartha Nivritti, you become initiated. That means that when you go to devotees, then in the devotees you see somebody who gives you something more than the others, that you can serve, that you can understand, that is more advanced, etc., etc. That's a guru. So bhajana kriya means devotional service to Krishna by surrendering to a spiritual master. And then initiation. Initiation is not something, how you say in English? It's not, somebody help me with the word.
Casual or a formality?
It's not something that you just do as a matter of
Like a ritual?
Ritual. This is the word. It's not a ritual. It is the moment that you actually become part of the parampara, of the sampradaya. That's like when you buy a house. You talk to the owner, yes, I like this house, but the owner doesn't give you the keys because he's waiting for you to pay. So the moment that you sign the contract and you pay, and then he gives you the keys, then you become the owner of the house. So initiation is the moment that the spiritual master gives you the keys to the parampara. So it is not ritual, it is something extremely important, and everybody should. Krishna was initiated, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was initiated, Brahma was initiated, Shiva was initiated, everybody was. There is no a single saint in our tradition that didn't get initiation from a previous spiritual master. This is how the parampara works. Parampara means one after another. Parampara. One to the other, to the other, to the other, to us. And then, of course, there are 9 steps. I don't think I should go through one by one because it would take a long time. We can give a class only on this verse, so let's let it here. But then the quality of the relationship with the spiritual master, it is extremely important, because Krishna does not accept service from you if you don't serve the spiritual master. Okay? All right, so let's go to the question of Yamuna. Of course, when we finish, we have only 2 questions more, and then you can do all the questions that you want. But there is one question by Yamuna, and I want to answer it. Yamuna, can you please read it?
Yes, Gurudev, if Govinda was totally satisfied with the answer to the question, because I'm not sure. I understood the question about the changing relationship, like the stages of relationship with the guru. I'm not sure I totally understood.
Oh, okay. Govinda, my question was not satisfactory.
Well, my understanding was that as we progress in our spiritual life, it'll be more clear how our relationship with the spiritual master is developing.
Yes, yes, yes. Just like there are three stages, basically. The first stage is inquiry. You should never accept a spiritual master without being sure that he knows philosophy and that he wants to be served. Or maybe you meet a wonderful devotee, but he doesn't want to take this commitment because it is a commitment. You know, if the disciples write to you, you got to answer. and and personally, I don't have many disciples. There are gurus in our movement. It's thousands of these. I don't know how they. Well, they most of them do not answer at all. That is not what I would do. But it is a commitment to accept a disciple because it's like having a son. When you make a son, then you have to work. You have to maintain him. You have to educate him. You have to give him time. You have to give him love. It is not something, again, ritualistic. Accept a disciple. One, I heard somebody saying, well, I initiated you, what do you want from me now? I would never say the name. I became horrified. It's like you do you have a child, and then you say, okay, I gave you birth, and now you go. I don't care about you. This is a lifetime commitment. Lifetime commitment forever. The rest of your Diksha Guru is always the same, the whole life. For the whole life, you have a commitment with this devotee. And then the second stage is that after you ascertain and become initiated, then you have to serve, etc., and you have to study. And then the third stage is that you had to help his mission. You cannot take a spiritual master and never to care about what he wants to do. So the 9 stages of devotion are referring to Krishna, and our spiritual life cannot be applied to our relationship with the spiritual master, which is quite simpler in a sense.
Thank you, Gurudev. I understand the answer better now.
Okay.
And so I'd like to go on and ask my question. You know that we have our Srimad Bhagavatam study class.
Oh, let me just
Okay.
sorry to interrupt you. There is this phrase is there anything like initial stage, intermediate stage, and mature stage? Yes, I already explained. The initial stage when you try to make sure that he's your spiritual master. The intermediate stage is when you start studying after being initiated. At the mature stage, when you participate to your spiritual master mission, just like all of us, a disciple of Srila Prabhupada, we accepted Srila Prabhupada as our spiritual master, and then we gave our life to him. It is not the one takes a spiritual master. Okay, now I have a very nice Indian name, Now I can go to any temple and everybody will respect me. Now I am Bhakta Joe, and after I am whatever Prabhu, and you get the best prasada because you are initiated. Because this is not. This will happen, of course, because there's etiquette, but the initiation will change your life completely. without being initiated, you go to any temple and you are in, maybe it's a little too much saying you are a nobody, but you are, when you are initiated, you are part of the family. Otherwise, up to before initiation, you are a guest. After initiation, you are part of the family. So one question is that how do I know if a specific person, it is not in your question, but it is quite recurrent in my life, this question, how do I recognize a spiritual master, and how can I recognize that he is my spiritual master? This I will not answer today because it takes time. We don't have so much time actually, because time flies. Another, we can dedicate more time next time. Yeah, just a few words. A spiritual master must be saintly. First of all, should not be attached to material things. It should respect the four regulatory principles. Should not be interested in mundane things, sex, and all these things. And then he has to be very, he has to know philosophy very well, very, very well. It should not be a question that he cannot answer. That's why studying, and realization is very, very important. And how do you know that someone is your spiritual master? Well, that's intimate. I cannot answer for you. Before meeting Srila Prabhupada, I met other so-called spiritual masters. No one, I think 4 or 5. Coming from India, they were really weird. They were all weird, It was everything strange. But when I met Srila Prabhupada devotees and books, something happened in my heart. But even before meeting the devotees, it's something very intimate. But we are not going to talk much about that, but don't accept a spiritual master if you are not sure that you are going to be his disciple the whole of your life. So it's very important step in our life. Okay, so Yamuna, can you please read your question?
Yes, thank you, Gurudev. In our study session on Srimad Bhagavatam, second canto, chapter 3, verse 23, we were impressed by the severity of the translation. If the person who has not received the mercy of the Lord's pure devotee is certainly a dead body. What does this really mean for those of us who have not yet had this experience? Do not all jivas maintain their bodies, human and other forms, alive? Although those without the experience of surrender to a realized soul may be said to experience an inferior quality of life. Please clarify this point for us.
This is quite heavy statement, isn't it? Very much. And you know what? There are two different worlds, I would say. I'm just trying to make you understand as simpler as possible. There is the world of the philosophy absolute, the principles of philosophy, that those who are devotees live and appreciate because they are devotees. But then there is the world of preaching. And when you explain our philosophy to people who have not your sensitivity, is that correct? your type of spiritual sensitivity, that's something that is perfectly not only acceptable, but even tasty for you. It's nice. You just feel that you like it. But if you don't, then uh, then um, then you can even ruin spiritual lives. That's why preaching is not a simple thing. You have to be very careful not to say things to people that they are not ready to hear or not ready to practice. So that's why we should be very, very careful. And when liberated soul meet, they talk about something that we cannot even imagine. You know, I can only imagine what Shukadeva Goswami and Vyasadeva and all the great sages, they talk when they are alone. But when they are not alone, then you can see the Srimad Bhagavatam is for us. He didn't recite Srimad Bhagavatam to taste. Of course, it tasted, no? It tastes very nice, but this was for us. So, uh, uh, so if we live in this material, what is the main, let's say, a reality that we cannot avoid? What is the most sure thing in life? In my native country, there is a saying, sure as death. Isn't
Yes.
that? That is sure.
Yes.
So, since we have a few years to live in this body, then if we cannot escape death by being able to enter into the non-death zone, which is a spiritual world, then what are you? You're already dead. It's just a question of time. What does it matter to be dead today or be dead in 10 years? You're dead. It sure is dead. So that's why the real life is spiritual life, because it's an eternal life where you don't die. And when you leave this body, actually you're not living in a body, you're living in a temple, because you use your body for Krishna consciousness. So you're already in the eternity. So if you don't receive the mercy of a pure devotee, then you don't go to Krishna, and then you're already dead. Yours is not a life, it's a waiting for death. It is heavy, well, and sorry. Maybe it's a quite severe statements, but this is, if you think it without become envious or having bad feelings, so this, then you can understand that it is the truth.
Okay. Thank
Then
you.
he said, when you say experience an inferior quality of life, again, it depends very much. From the point of view of a pure devotee or an advanced devotee, there is no such a thing as a good quality of life in this material world. It's a question of perception. No, perception from the point of view. How you say that in English? Perspective. Perspective. From the perspective, the more the devotees advance, the more you must expect to hear things that may disturb you, because you cannot pretend. The pure devotee who is a preacher tries to be a little careful, Oh yes, it's not bad. You want to get married, okay, get married. And then you want to go to the cinema, okay, it's not that bad, all these things. Because otherwise people will be scared. They will never come back to you. But if you want to know exactly what I think, then you're going to be scared, because I think this is all useless nonsense, a waste of time. This is what I think. And so when you go talk to a devotee, you have to expect that if a devotee is not really dedicated to preaching, and be careful about what he says. Maybe he can say things that you will not like it. And this is the Srimad Bhagavatam. You heard something who scared you, who really disturbed you. You say that if someone does not receive the mercy of the Lord's few devotees, it's a dead body. That's scary. But unfortunately, fortunately, is the truth. So that's why we tell the devotees, first, don't go to the 10th canto, because you're going to read things you're not ready to understand. Start from the Bhagavad Gita, maybe Sri Upanishad is even more philosophical, and then Bhagavad Gita, then Srimad Bhagavata. But don't study these books alone. Don't study them alone. Study in the company of devotees. And if you have a guru, then you should make hundreds of questions. That's how you understand philosophy. Um, because it is like looking, Srila Prabhupada made an example of multi-faced jewel, a diamond. A diamond is not just black, has many, many facets.
Multifaceted.
Then this stone, it changes color, etc., depending from where you are looking at it from. And so don't be disturbed if you read, because the devotee, the acharya has to write these things. Like one time I got into a discussion with a devotee and say, Srila Prabhupada says things I cannot do. So why is he saying, is he telling me something that I cannot do? What's the point? What's the use? He just carried me away from Krishna consciousness. Then you have to be a little more philosophically inclined. Human nature is that it always finds a way or the excuse to try to find a way of not following something. So it is just a human nature. The acharya is not a street preacher. Let me use this expression. The street preacher means, just chant Hare Krishna, your life will be sublime. That's all. You don't have to do anything. Just chant, And but the acharya, this is duty is to set the perfect level of teaching. And then other preacher will tell you, okay, you cannot practice this, then practice this, then this, then this, then this. Because the preacher is the mercy personified, and he will tell you how much you can practice before reaching the perfection. A preacher will never tell you, if you don't do the perfection, then you go to hell. I don't want to talk to you anymore. This is not how we preach. So Srila Prabhupada, just and many pages and verses in the scripture, will tell you, you will read and or you will hear or read something that you think that you've never been able to practice. But it is their duty to write it. And then with the others, we'll find a way so that you can be happy and free from anxiety in practicing something that you can practice.
Very good. Thank you, Gurudev.
Yes. Okay, so we are at the end. I should tell you the story, but before, I really want I would like to have some questions from you. If there is any question, I would be happy to answer. Otherwise, we'll tell you the story and then we go. No questions. Once in a sunny day near the Ganges, a proud Brahmin priest who had just finished his oblations came across Narada, the messenger of the gods. After bowing deeply in respect, the Brahmin took the liberty of asking the divine sage for a favor. The Brahmin priest said, "Could you be so kind as to ask the Supreme Lord, Narayana, when I am going to be liberated from this world and join him in holy bliss? I know it will be soon because of my station and all, but I would just like to know all the same." And Narada said, "No problem, my sir. I'll ask when I see him." Further along down the river, a lowly cobbler or cobbler? Anyway,
I think
cobbler, fixing shoes by the wayside, also stopped Narada as he was passing through, and chanced to approach the great emissary. The cobbler said, "Could I appeal to your kindness by asking you to speak to the great god Narayana on my behalf?" And Narada said, "I'd be happy to." The cobbler, "You see, I'm growing more weary each year, and I'd just like to know how many more lifetimes I'm doomed to suffer in this material world." He said, "I am very lowly, so who knows how many lives I yet to live before going back to the spiritual world." Narada said, "I'll be sure to pass on your message." And Narada continued, passing seamlessly through the spiritual world, because Narada Muni can travel all over the world. When he saw Narayan, he bowed to his feet, as is the custom in approaching great spiritual masters. The Lord then asked if there was anything he could do for Narada, who proceeded to put forth the concerns of both the priest and the cobbler. As Lord Narayana can see through the barriers of time and into eternity, he thus knows all. With a brief pause, he informed Narada of the destiny of his supplicants. Lord Narayana, the cobbler will come to me at the end of this present lifetime, but the Brahmin will live through at least 100 more lifetimes. It's unbelievable. A Brahmana was very sure I will go there. And the cobbler said, who knows how many lifetimes. Seeing the confused look on Narada's face, the Lord only smiled and gave this instruction. "Next time you see the cobbler and the priest, they will ask you what I was doing when you saw me. Tell them I was threading an elephant through the eye of a needle." When you see the reaction to this, you will then understand everything. So Narada went on his way. The first man he saw was a Brahmin. The Brahmana was shocked, insulted by the news. Narada told, "You had to live 100 lives. I'm a Brahmana. I'm important. I serve Narayana the whole life, and I had to stay under." And the Brahmana priest, "100 births in this hell? I don't believe it. You probably didn't even see the Lord." They didn't believe Narada. "Tell me, what he was doing when you saw him?" And Narada, "Threading an elephant through the eye of a needle." And the Brahmana said, "Threading an elephant through the eye of a needle? That's totally absurd. You must be lying about everything. That's impossible. How can you put the elephant in the eye of a needle?" So Narada excused himself and pressed on until he found the cobbler. He gave him the news that he would soon be liberated and would be joined in the realm of the Lord at the end of this lifetime, at which point the peasant exclaimed in joy, the cobbler, what blessed and glorious news! But alas, no. Tell me, my good sir, what was the Lord doing when you saw him? Narada said, he was threading an elephant through the eye of a needle. And the cobbler, lovely, absolutely lovely. And Narada said, you mean you believe that? And the cobbler, why, sure. You see the huge old oak tree up the hill, it grew from a tiny acorn. So if the Lord can squeeze a gigantic oak tree into a little seed like that, he can just as easily thread an elephant through the eye of a needle. And with that, Narada understood the difference between the priest and the cobbler, as well as why the priest was not ready for liberation. So the whole point is that the cobbler was a pure devotee. So he understood the nature of the Lord. If Krishna wants to do something, he can do it. There is nothing he cannot do. So he can make us brahmanas. We were born in families of not elevated Vaishnava, and we lived for many years, and he made us into devotees, Vaishnavas, brahmanas, initiated, sannyasis, gurus. If Krishna can do that, then he can put an elephant through the eye of a needle. The Brahmana was thinking with his intelligence and not with his heart. A devotee is already beyond intelligence. Now is speaking from the heart, the spiritual heart. That's a big difference. Okay, so now you have two choice. One, questions. Two, we shut it down and we go for our business.
I didn't have any more questions, Guru Maharaj. Thank you very much for sharing the story, though, for the pastime.
Oh, I have pastimes all over. I can take pastimes, full of pastimes. Okay, let me say this. I want to tell you, not a pastimes, but it's something short, but it's so nice. A sage who was full of hairs. It was like a forest of hairs all over his body. He was very hairy. A hairy sage, and showed up in the court of King Indra. And when asked where he lived, the sage replied that since life was so short, he had decided not to marry, and so he did not have a home. Indra asked him why he had such a strange, bald spot on his chest, where hair was obviously falling out. The sage replied that each time a Brahma dies, he loses one hair from his chest. And this is why he has become bald. The sage further asserted that once he had lost all his hairs, then from the death of so many Brahma, he too would die. And he was a very hairy sage. So in other words, he was living trillions and trillions and trillions of years. And he was thinking that life is too short to waste it into building houses, getting married, or doing anything. You know, he should practice Krishna consciousness. So this is a very nice story that I heard when I was very young, a young devotee. And then from that point, I never heard it again. So I came across his story a few days ago, and I thought I had to tell the story to the devotees.
I'd never heard that one before.
You never heard that?
No.
You never heard that many things.
Yeah. Yes.
You'll
Me
be,
too. I'm not this before.
huh?
I've never heard it before.
I cannot understand what you say.
Sorry, I never heard. Me too.
Tell me, okay, tell me in Italian because I don't understand it.
Okay. Do you hear me?
Yeah. If you
No.
if you were
No,
saying something that you want to say, since I don't understand your English, you can say it in Italian, and then I will understand it.
No, I was saying that I never heard before that story too.
Okay, good. All right, so I want to, since we are here, then I'm going to tell you the last thing, and then we close. So there is a very nice verse in Srimad Bhagavatam, that's the number 116, very nice verse. Rishaya uchu tvaya kalu puranani setihasani chanaga adyatani api aditani dharmishastrani yanyuta. Very famous verse. All devotees, they know it. Many I memory. So there is something that Srila Prabhupada explains, saying the four sins of Kali Yuga, the fourth thing that if one wants to practice Krishna consciousness has to practice. First, illicit connection with women, which means men in the case of women, obviously. Two, animal slaughter. We should not eat meat. We don't need. Three, intoxication. So what intoxication is? Intoxication is obviously any kind of drugs, and you know what intoxication is. And then speculative gambling of all sorts. Of course, you should not play poker, obviously, or things like that. But not many devotees think that the four regular principle is about who loses and who wins. Just like when you see a football match or a soccer, you call it soccer match. What is that? You are there saying who is going to win, who is going to yeah, who is going to lose. Oh, this is my party. So then I want into, and then you are in anxiety. This is gambling. Okay, we should not gamble. We should not think. Even there are so many gamblings in the world. Even when you vote for a president, it's a gambling because everybody's saying, "I want him. I don't want him." This is gamble. Our mind should be very peaceful, and we should not be disturbed with this who wins and who loses. Okay, so thank you very much, Govinda.
Yes, Kumar. I have one, I guess, one doubt with sports as gambling. what about sports as recreation? How like Krishna says that in Bhagavad Gita that we should like not eat too much, not eat too little, not sleep too much, not sleep too little, and then he also brings up recreation. And so, what about playing with the ball, or even playing soccer, but recreation? It's not you're not you're not so invested in a team, but it's just it's for recreation.
You like soccer, I know.
Yeah. Yes.
It's just a question of how you take it. You know, I if you watch a football match and you are in anxiety because your team is losing, that's bad. But if you some sport and innocently, you know, obviously you want your team. If you play, obviously you want to win, but it's like innocent, just like Krishna is playing with the Gopas, and there are two teams. One wants to win, the other one also. That's a completely different thing, you know. Very much depends from your consciousness. Actually, all the foreign principle, except eating meat and an intoxicant, also there is nothing you can do about that. But you can have children, you know, if you do it, if you have sex with your wife, um, that's good, because you have children, and then you train them in Krishna consciousness. Of course, if you want to train somebody in Krishna consciousness, you can do new devotees. It's better and faster than making a son and waiting 20 years and maybe nothing happens, you know. But again, um, depends from your consciousness. If you want just have fun, this is bad. If you want to, you know, have children, that's good. All right, so we are having our video conferences until somebody comes every 2 weeks. But after tomorrow, I'm going to have, because I want to start again preaching in Spanish. We preached in Spanish for years and years. I don't remember how many years. Maybe Yamuna can remember more than me. Maybe 5 years. Is that right or false?
That sounds about right. Yes.
That's about every week.
Well, when I joined, you had already gone through previous studies with them. I joined late, so at least 5 years, I would say.
At least 5 years. And then they became, you know, they got tired. It was too much, you know. And then it takes very much liking of Krishna consciousness. So, but at least once in a month, you know, I can give a Spanish um, a Spanish video conference, and you are all invited, obviously. And so next Sunday, and then next month. So, what do you think about the time? I mean, the timing is good or is it bad? What time is in Puerto Rico? It should be around 10. Yeah. So anyway, what do you think about this time? Until I am in India, this is what I can do.
This time is very comfortable for me, and obviously those of us who are here find it agreeable. But I would also be flexible if there was any need to change the time.
Yeah, I think Batinebi, where are you? You are in Houston? She's off.
I'm in San Antonio, but I don't really speak Spanish, not very much. So
No, I was asking where are you?
I'm not really. Oh, I'm in San Antonio.
In San Antonio. So it should be about around 10 o'clock. So for you.
Yes, this video started at 9, so right now it's 10:13.
So it's a good time for Bhatta Fabienne also. Okay, so I just wanted to say that. Thank you very much for coming. Hare Krishna, all glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Jai Prabhupada. Srila Manonatha Maharaj ki jai.
Jai.
Very much,
Hare
Guru Maharaj.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare